spot. Thank you, boys and girls. You guys look fabulous. Look down, make sure your toes are right at the front end of that riser. There you go. Stand up tall and let's pay attention to Miss Sand. Parents, thank you for coming this morning. I'd like to welcome you all to El Morro and our 2nd and 3rd grade Young Americans Sing concert. These students are ready to entertain you. Now they know now what the Rolling Stones feel like out on tour, standing room only here at El Morro. And with that, I'd like to introduce our chorus teacher, Miss Beth Sand.
Thank you so much for their beautiful red, white, blue outfits. Don't they look pretty up there? You guys look great. You guys look really nice. Okay, we're going to get started. This is your grand old flag. Yep. Okay. Ready for chance to side? Perfect. Okay, you ready? Y'all please stand for the national anthem. Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly hailed at the twilight's last gleaming our first Smarty Pants song. If you went to El Morro, you know this is 50 Nifty. We can, because music is the best way to memorize stuff. I used to, with my kids at Thurston, when they were at Thurston, we used to take their science chapter and take all the vocab words and write a stupid song about it. You know, we just put them all in order and sing about an ecosystem. And it cemented into their brain so they could go the next day and remember what the vocabulary words meant, and they would ace the test. And so that's what these songs are for. Smarty Pants songs make you smarter than you were before. This is 50 Nifty. We now can recite the names of every 50 state in alphabetical order. Just in case you're not impressed quite enough, we will now sing you the names of every American president in order of service. Yeah, we know.
Harrison and Tyler.
Smarty Pants song? Why am I yelling? This song is kind of a Smarty Pants song because nobody until a few years ago knew what it meant until we Googled it. And then we started telling everybody, this is Yankee Doodle. The oldest American song was first written by an Englishman by the name of Dr. David Shuckburgh in the 1700s, who was attempting to make fun of the American soldiers for being so plain, because they had no uniforms. They came to battle with whatever clothes they'd been farming in that day, and they had nothing fancy about them. In fact, they had ceased to care about fashion altogether. And that's what the first verse is about that confuses everybody. What's this about feathers and macaroni and business? So what it means is that the word macaroni we refer to as pasta. It didn't mean pasta in the 1700s. It was what our French word is for haute couture. That was high fashion. It was macaroni. It was the finest clothing. The kings and queens and all the royals wore that clothing. So this guy's making fun of the American soldiers, saying all he thinks he needs to do is stick a feather in his cap, and he calls that macaroni. That makes sense, doesn't it? And also the dancing and the girls be handy, because everybody danced in those days. You had to be able to dance to be considered accomplished in any way, to be even socially acceptable. You had to know all the latest dance steps. And so with the girls be handy, you got to know what to do. So anyway, the Americans thought the song was so funny that they started making self-effacing verses about themselves, and it just took off. There are over 150 known verses of Yankee Doodle. We will only do half of those today. Wrote this most beautiful poem about our beautiful country, and for about 40 or 50 years it was that, just a poem, until later in the late 1800s it was put to melody, and it's now my favorite patriotic song. This is America the Beautiful.
Majesty of
our favorite songs. Not a patriotic song, but it's one of our favorites. This is I Can See Clearly Now.
For this big blue marble is
Shanti, glad you came. We have a little surprise for you today. It's never been performed at El Morro School before, and we're really excited because it's a song that you've heard before, but never like this. Sorry about this. You ready? Can you hear the music okay? Yeah. Is it loud enough? Yeah. Okay. Can you hear that? Yeah. Can you guys hear it? Yeah. I'm going to make it louder again. Don't worry, we'll be done before 9. We're going to sing our last song for you. This is the El Morro School song, taken from your grand old flag, but written as a parody for us by a former music teacher, Mr. Dean Bottorff. Anybody here have Dean Bottorff as a music teacher? Yeah. Oh, you're okay. Ready?
I want to thank everyone for coming, and students, you guys were fantastic. So we're going to I'd like to thank Miss Sam, our chorus teacher. I'd also like to thank my second and third grade teachers for helping the students learn the songs.
Yes!
We will let the students exit out this exit up here in the front, or this side over here. And parents, if you don't mind exiting in the back, thank you for coming.